about the discovery in the body of Ramesses II of tobacco. This is something that stunned the world. Ramesses II was a great pharaoh who had been lying in state in the museum in Egypt for many centuries. Suddenly he developed, or over a period of time, he developed an infection in the leg. You can understand how extraordinary the African mummification must be, that it took thousands of years for him to develop an infection in his leg. This infection was eating away the mummy. They got afraid, and since France is in control of most of these things, many Parisian laboratories came to study the mummy of Ramesses II. He was taken over to Paris. Diop said when they took off the cover, he saw Ramesses II. Ramesses II was very black. When they brought him back home, he was pale. They put so much gamma rays in that mummy that they turned him pale. Diop said in spite of all of that, it would still be possible to test him, to give him the melanin dosage test. But some strange thing happened. And I unwittingly had something to do with it, because Diop wrote me and says, they have found tobacco in the belly of Ramesses II. And he said to me in a letter which is published in this new journal, that proves that you are right. Not only the Egyptians come to America, but they came back bringing the tobacco. And I wrote him and says, no. Here you are likely to be making a mistake, because even though people have argued for centuries that tobacco is American, it is not. I have shown in my book, which at that time, he was writing in 1980, my book did not come out in France until 1981. So he had only read pieces of my book. He had not read the French edition of the book. And I said, when the French edition comes out, you are to look very closely at the chapter on tobacco, because I have shown that tobacco is not American. There is an African tobacco and there's an American tobacco, and that in fact the word tobacco comes from tobak, which comes from dubak, which is a Syrian word for viscum, glue, and the viscosity of the tobacco plant led the Syrians to call it dubak, and then it was changed to tobak, and it led to words like tobak, taba, tawa, tama, and that is what came over, so that the Americans started to call not the tobacco plant, for which they had a name since they had a tobacco plant, they called the pipe tabaco. And they called the act of smoking with the mouth, which was new to them, tabaco. So that could be an African tobacco. So use your laboratory, because Diop was the founder and maker of the radiocarbon laboratory in Dakar. Since his death, I think it was last month, the government of Senegal decided to call it the Sheikh Anta Diop Institute rather than the Radiocarbon Laboratory. It is now named after him. But he could not do this because nobody would allow him to touch the tobacco. But nevertheless, he informed people in Egypt and in France that I had raised the question that they should test the tobacco to see if indeed it is like American tobacco. Do you know, after the test was performed, everybody got quiet? There were 8 laboratories involved, and none of them published reports. And do you know what they said? They stopped studying Ramesses II, and then the rumor went around that they got the wrong mummy. In other words, either they discovered that was an African tobacco, not like the American, which means it upset all the arguments, or they discovered it was American, which meant that there's a possibility that the Egyptians brought it back from America in an early time, which upset them even more. So either way, they got caught, so they shut up. That was the end of the matter. We never heard again about Ramesses II. Nothing has been published about it.